As business leaders, professionals, whatever title you have, I believe that in order to make a difference, you've got to be able to command the room.
Exude Human Capital Consulting hosts Hold On, Let Me Close My Door, bringing real stories from real professionals with real solutions to you. Join us as we navigate the ever-changing workplace with Allison DeFlorio, co-founder and managing partner of Exude Human Capital, and special guests.
Welcome, everyone, to the first episode of our new season of Hold On, Let Me Close My Door. I'm Allison DeFlorio, one of your hosts for today's podcast, and I'm really thrilled to have my partner in crime and one of our fantastic consultants, Doug May, joining me today to co-host. How are you, Doug?
I'm great. It's so great to be here at season 4 already. Is that amazing?
Shocking,
Yeah,
actually.
I
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
And Doug, it was interesting that you and I were on a call earlier today, and I
Mhm.
don't know if you remember this, but one of our colleagues was sharing a story about how she had attended a networking event recently. And this is someone who goes to networking events regularly and is used to having to kind of share the story. And she was a little surprised and a little panicked and a little put on the spot when they said, okay, we're going to go around the room and we have a buzzer and you have 30 seconds to share your story. Who are you? And she said, wow, there's pressures on. You've got to come up with that. How can I sound clever and really share what it is that I do so people in this room know what I do? And so today's episode is called So What's Your Story? And we are going to be talking with the perfect person to share some tips and tricks and expertise on how to do that. So I'd like to welcome Leslie Fiorenzo to Hold On, Let Me Close My Door. Hello, Leslie.
Hello, Allison and Doug. It is so great to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
We're
Oh,
so
thank
glad to have you too, Leslie. It's awesome.
Yeah, thank you for doing this, Leslie. And just, I want to share a little bit about your background, Leslie, and then I want you to share with our listeners, give them a little more context to the work that you do in this space. But everyone, Leslie, it leads a company called Business Speaking Solutions, and she works with business professionals who want to build confident, commanding presence using public speaking. She also happens to be the author of 2 books, one called Find Your Voice, How to Conquer Your Fears and share your story with confidence, and 21 Lessons for Managing Difficult Conversations. And, Leslie, in preparation for this podcast, I was doing a little research on public speaking and on people giving their introductions. And I found that 90% of people struggle with giving that compelling elevator speech, that pitch on the spot or planned. And you couple that with 75% of the population has a genuine fear of public speaking, even in public speaking in front of a group, but also speaking just to an individual with confidence. So can you share a little bit about your work in this space and how you got to do what you're doing?
Sure. I'd be happy to, Allison. And I'm doing what I'm doing because of those two facts you mentioned. And as business leaders, professionals, whatever title you have, I believe that in order to make a difference, you've got to be able to command the room. And a lot of times that starts with how you talk about yourself and how you make that introduction. And it might be at a networking event. You mentioned your colleague, but maybe it's the first time I meet somebody if I go for an interview or as I meet a new employee or if I'm taking over a team and I'm meeting my colleagues for the first time. I know this is a trite expression because it's dated, but you never get a second chance to make a first impression. So, thinking about what I want to say, how I want to say it, and more importantly than that, who is going to be in the room so I can connect with them on a very real and authentic level, if you will. I don't fake it till you make it. Don't fake anything. Be yourself, be who you are, and that's who we want to connect with. I'm not right for everybody. You're not right for everybody. And that's okay. You want to find the people that resonate with you. You want to find your tribe, so to speak, and talk to them.
So you said a lot there, and
Yeah.
there's so much. I don't think we're going to have enough time, Leslie. We might have to do a part two here. But you made me think. It sounds like you have to have your story, but you have to, and it needs to be authentic, but you also have to be able to tailor it rather quickly based on who your audience is.
Mm.
And that can be scary for people. Why do so many professionals struggle with telling their story?
Well, I think part of it dates back to who we are as humans. When we were living in small tribes on planet Earth, first early peoples, right? If we made the leader of that tribe mad and got kicked out, or if we did something that dissented, our life was at risk. And your brain does everything in its power to protect you. So it's going to tell you that audience might get mad at you. They might kick you out. Now, in all reality, most of us, if we're speaking before a group, aren't our life is not at risk. Now, there are a few cases. I mean, leaders have been shot, right?
Mm,
Trump
mhm,
was aimed at, and whatever you think about that. But the fact of the matter is, for most of us, that is not going to be the case. Yet our
mhm,
brain is shouting at us when we stand before that audience because it sees the eyes of people peering at us and it thinks back to those early days. And it might be a wild animal that's going to jump out and eat us, or it might be a warring tribe that's going to get us. It doesn't know the difference. The good thing about our brains, we can retrain them so we can replace that old story with a new one. But most of us don't recognize that and don't take the time to do it. So
So,
that's my answer to your question.
yeah, I want to just follow up with that a little bit though. So I just always have wondered because I've done a lot of public speaking, and
Mhm.
what when somebody gets up there in front of the room and they what makes them freeze, or what makes them, why don't they kind of work through it? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, as I've worked with my clients and as I've talked to people, it is the story we're telling ourselves in the head in our
Mhm.
heads, right? So we look at that group and we think, "Oh my gosh, they don't like me or they're disagreeing with me or I've just said something that's really stupid or people are going to judge me." Guess what? People are going to judge you no matter what you say or do. We are judging creatures. So I love Mel Robbins' new book, Let Them. And that's the whole idea. They're going to judge you, so let them. But then she takes it a step further and she says, let me. So you've got to come around to the fact that you're going to share your story in your best way possible. And you're going to share your story so that you can make a difference. I think that's why we're all here to make a difference.
Leslie, is there any data that you're aware of that shows a correlation between gender and confidence levels in
Oh,
sharing the story?
I don't know if there is data, Allison. I think, well, when you look at especially the speaking industry
Mhm,
and the majority of paid speakers are men.
Mhm.
So,
mhm.
as women, I think you might agree with me. We've been told don't speak up. It's not polite to brag. Don't be braggadocious. Good girls don't brag about themselves, right? You just stay in the, and now I think that's changing with the younger generations. And rightfully so, it should, because here's some data that I do know. If someone is applying for a job and the employer lists 10 things that they need in this person, and guy will have a gentleman will have 4 of the 10, he'll apply anyway. A woman will not unless she has all 10, maybe 8, maybe 9, but she's going to have more I mean, she's just gonna hold herself back.
Mm. Yeah, I have heard that data, and you couple that with honestly what you see in conference rooms or in meetings, who raises their hand? And again, it is changing, but I
Mhm,
guess I think about the new generation coming to the workforce that doesn't have necessarily, because of remote work or hybrid work,
mhm.
necessarily the exposure to speaking
Mm,
publicly in person.
Yeah.
So what do you think are how do you help somebody structure that 60-second pitch? What do you say to people to start thinking about mapping it out and making it authentic?
So it's where you start. So start with something that is of interest to me, or start with a hook, if you will. Start with a piece of data that may be controversial, or maybe something I didn't know, or maybe a statement that's maybe a little contrary. Pique people's interest. So then tell it about the problem you solve. Because remember, everybody listens from the perspective of what's in it for me.
Mhm.
And this is again, I've been around for a while. So I was around when radio, now I think there's still radio, but there's not a radio station necessarily. But WIIFM, what's in
Yeah.
it for me? That's everybody's favorite radio station.
yeah.
Right? So we listen for that from that perspective. So that's what you want to be able to do, is share information with people that gets them interested right away, makes them think, "Oh, I need to know more about this." Then tell me a little bit about what makes you special, because there's a lot of people, Allison, that do what you do, that do what I do. What is it that makes you different? And
Mm,
then what's the call to action? Do you want to offer a free gift to them, that they should go to your website and connect with? Or should we schedule a meeting? Or what do you want them to do? And it's one thing, not six. I've seen people make that mistake. Well, let's do this and this. And a confused mind will not take any action. So don't confuse me.
So do you tailor that, Leslie, to the crowd? I mean, because we talked a little bit about that earlier. So is it really, your 60 seconds, should you have like a few different ones in your back pocket for whoever you're really talking to?
I think because, like, if you're going to an HR executive group meeting, right, you're going to talk a little bit differently than if you were going to a chamber of commerce that has a lot of different business professionals, and you can probably serve them. But you're more interested maybe in the owner of the company than the sales professional that's at that meeting. You want to connect with the decision maker. So I think you have a few in your back pocket. I heard this analogy, so I'm gonna thank Nikki Chang Paulus for this. She says, "Your networking 60-second intro is like fine wine. It gets better with age." So as you
Oh,
share it more and more and more, you do it more and more and more.
Yeah,
That's what she's talking about.
I love that.
I
And
do too.
and I do it's like military training. You practice, you practice, you practice, so when the time is there, you're not even thinking about it.
Yes.
It just you automatically deliver whatever is the appropriate 60-second response to the audience, is what I'm kinda hearing you say.
I do believe that, and I sure you have seen people who you say 60 seconds and they drone on for 5 minutes, and you have no idea what they do or even what they're after. They're confusing. So when I'm practice, and that's why I think working with a professional is so helpful, at least getting feedback. Get a hold of your best friend and say, "Hey, I've got to go to this networking event, and here's what I'm thinking of saying. When I say this, what do you hear?" We had a perfect example this morning at a group I was in, and they were talking about something and the word was misunderstood. And
Mm.
people were like, what exactly are you saying?" And the group was kind enough and generous enough to share this I wasn't clear. And that's what we want from, like, if it's not clear, please tell me.
What role would you say does self-confidence have in this process, in the art of storytelling about your, sharing your story?
Well, I think it's a huge piece, Allison. And if people don't have self confidence, they're reluctant and they won't even try sometimes. And that's the sad part because, again, it does get better each time I do it. I think Nike's slogan from the 80s is accurate. Just do it. Get out there. Okay, if you mess up, you mess up. It's not a big deal. Maybe you make a mistake, but heck, everybody makes mistakes and, and everybody survives them, generally speaking. It's not the end of the world if you wasn't quite accurate. You can always go back and amend it, those kinds of things.
What was it that, I'm gonna date myself, but that Jerry Seinfeld said? That I'd rather be in the casket than delivering the eulogy? It be
Yeah.
based on people's reaction to kind of putting themselves
Yeah.
out there and
Right.
Yeah.
speaking in public?
Yeah. No, I know, and isn't that sad that we
Mhm,
rather be dead than speaking in public? I mean,
mhm.
who knows what lies beyond this world? But for the fact of the matter is we're here. So let's take advantage of those moments when we can make a difference. Somebody out there needs to hear your story. They need your leadership. They need your ability. So don't deprive them of that. And also remember, your audience wants you to succeed. No one ever said, "Oh, gee, I hope this speaker is boring." No, they don't say that. They say, "Gee, I hope I learn something. I hope I get some value. I hope it's fun. I hope it's interesting." And so when you prepare and when you give a presentation that makes a difference, people will say that, but they're cheering you on. They want you to succeed.
That preparation piece, I feel, is really, really important. What do you say to people on how to begin to prepare? Let's say they know they're going to a networking event. I heard you say talk to some friends, but actual the mechanics of what are some things they can do to prepare that 60-second
So
pitch?
maybe I mean, if you can talk to a real person and get feedback, but maybe that's not available. So get on a Zoom call all by yourself. Create a Facebook group and you're the only member and you go live in that group and nobody ever sees it. Use your just record it on your mobile device and delete it. Nobody has to see or stand in front of the mirror and talk to yourself in the mirror. That's the old-fashioned way. We did that before there was technology available. But the beauty of technology is you can listen to yourself. And I have people say to me, "Oh, I don't like the sound of my voice. I can't listen to myself." Embrace the fact that it's your voice. You are the only you there is ever going to be. You are an amazing human. Why not appreciate yourself? I can't emphasize that enough, Allison. We discount and we only have this one chance. So take advantage.
That's interesting that you say that. Doug, you and I have talked about that.
Yeah, we
After
have.
we record podcasts,
Yeah.
sometimes it can be difficult to go back and listen to it,
Mhm.
and you become very critical of your own, intonations or a particular phrase that you chose to use.
Well, it was funny.
Yes.
I just recently had that when we did a webinar on stuck in the middle. It was called. It was about middle managers, and I'm explaining this sandwich analogy we used. And I listened to it and I'm like, oh my gosh. I was So that's some of the things that, and I think that's what trips people up. So what do you suggest for that, Leslie, when you have a lot of those filler words and those things? What do you suggest to your folks to really kind of get past that when they're doing their 60 seconds?
Well, there's a group called Toastmasters, and their whole goal is to help
Mm.
people be better speakers. And they will count your ums and your ands and your likes. When I was a teen, I ended almost every sentence with the 2 words "you know." And my dad cured me of that because he'd say to me, "No, Leslie, I don't know." So maybe there's somebody in your life that's willing to call you out on your little, I'll say, idiosyncrasies. We all have language habits that creep in. It wasn't, Doug, until I started transcribing my videos for my YouTube channel that I realized how often I started sentences with the word so.
Mhm. I love that you shared that because the fact that we the fact that everyone has access to technology, most everyone has
Mhm.
access to some form of technology to be able to either visually record yourself, but certainly to do the audio recording and
Yes.
watch your mannerisms if you're going to be if you're looking to try to address some of your nonverbal skills, but then
Mhm.
also to listen for those filler words or the so's, the ums, the buts that really don't serve any purpose.
Mhm.
It's important to do that.
When we're on the radio, no one wants dead air on the radio. But
Mhm.
when we're in person or even on Zoom, an or a and or a aha, those kinds of things, if we're not careful, can be somewhat annoying. So pausing is super helpful and knowing it's okay. I don't have to fill every moment. And I think a lot of our filler words come in because we're not prepared and we're thinking, yeah, what, just hang on. I don't necessarily say that, but it's true when people are not prepared, haven't thought about. Sometimes we get a question that, gosh, like you mentioned, your colleague who went and they suddenly were aware you have 30 seconds. Wow, I didn't know that. Would have been nice to know before. That can be off putting and can cause some filler words. But by and large, when I'm prepared, if I've practiced it through practice, and I do encourage people to say the words out loud when they practice, as opposed to just practicing in your head. Well, I thought about it a few times. It's different when you speak it.
And I think about that. You never know when that person that you're chatting with on a plane or a train or standing in line or wherever you are gets to the point in your conversation where they're thinking, oh, this person's kind of interesting. And they say, so what do you do? Or share your story. So you have to have it in your back pocket because you
Yeah.
don't know when you're going to have that golden opportunity to perhaps make a connection that could be life changing. You just don't
It
know.
could be. Yes, absolutely. So the more prepared I am, the more practiced I am, the more confident I'm going to be. If I've said it a few times, and again, if I make a mistake, if I trip over a word, if I don't say a word right, if I forget a word, or I want to say, gosh, that wasn't exactly what I meant. So the beauty of something like this, Allison, it's recorded and you've got an editor and they can go back. But in real life, that's not always the case. Okay, I made a mistake. Not a big deal. I can work to repair it.
Okay, Leslie, what are the three best pieces of advice that you would give to someone who is looking to hone their story, their 60-second intro?
So, first of all, when you share your story, no matter if it's in person or on camera, no matter if it's seated or standing, keep your feet flat on the floor. Don't shift around, just keep your feet planted so that you can bring your energy up and out and to the group. And then be energetic. Your enthusiasm will carry through. And if you're not naturally enthusiastic, everybody has a little different personality, but drum up some energy so that people will say, "Oh, wow, I'd like to know them. I'd be interested." and practice, practice, practice. Practice doesn't mean perfect. Practice just means progress.
Oh, I like that.
I do too.
I might borrow that, Leslie, but
Eh,
I'll
Yeah.
credit
it's
you.
not mine. I don't know where I heard it.
Well, I'm hearing it from you, so therefore I get to
Okay.
credit you.
Yeah,
All right, great.
Well, this has been
it's
very,
been great.
very informative, and you've given me some things to think about, Doug. I don't know about you.
Well, yeah, I had the pleasure, just so you know, of taking Leslie's class. She had a beta class that she had us go through, and these were all the things that she talked about. So it's a really awesome online class that you can take to learn some of these things and to get these pointers. So, um, it, thanks, Leslie, again. That you just I wrote them down again. I don't know. I'm a writer downer, so
Yeah.
so
Well,
thanks
you know
for
what that does? It commits it to memory.
yeah.
And I think writing down something is helpful at taking written notes as opposed to notes on your computer. So that's good. But thanks for saying that. I enjoyed teaching that course and look forward to more opportunities.
Great. Well, Leslie Fiorenzo, thank you so much for taking time to join us on Hold On, Let Me Close My Door. For everyone, Leslie Fiorenzo is the principal with Business Speaking Solutions. And again, thank you for being our guest. I'm sure everybody took away a little golden nugget to help them get ready for the next time they get to share their story.
Thank you.
And
Thanks,
until next
Leslie.
time.